Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 24 of Love at First Scent on Facebook Live with me, Persolaise. I think we should start by shaking a snow globe. Right, let me see if I can do this right, because this is a snow globe that has quite a good reveal, which is probably why it's full of snow. So we start today. Who's going to be the first person to guess what is gradually going to be revealed as the snow? I have to say, watching it on the screen there, it looks very, very effective. And oh look, it's a red number 5 Christmas, courtesy of course, Chanel. A Chanel snow globe. Oh, and lots of thumbs and hearts going across the screen already. So it is with this red bottle of number 5 that we start the 24th episode of Love at First Scent, and I will do my usual hellos and greetings after our first perfume, but I think now we should start properly by smelling a perfume. This is going to be a funny kind of episode, because I think of all of the ones that I'm thinking I'll probably smell today, let me just quickly race through in my head. There's only one that I genuinely actually haven't smelt yet. So the Love at First Scent name is perhaps a bit of a cheat today, but I'm allowing that because this is going to be the last proper episode of the year. And I've suddenly thought, oh dear, I didn't cover this, I didn't cover that, and suddenly somebody's mentioned, this scent or this sample's come in the post or whatever, and there is stuff that I would like to make you aware of. But I'm also going to absolutely do my best to make sure that this episode doesn't go over the 1 hour mark, because I think some of the last ones have kind of been pushing it a little bit. With the Guerlain special, I think we went over an hour and 20 minutes. So let me just make sure that we are on track, so that I can see comments, etc. as they come in. Why is this not happening? Okay, it is happening. And as I say, I will greet you properly in a few moments, but I would like to start with this. Opus XI, ladies and gents, from Amouage, none other than Amouage. We haven't had anything from the library collection, as in the collection where the scents are always just called Opus followed by a number. Surprisingly enough, it started with 1 and the last one we had was number 10. But this is Opus XI. I have smelt it before, I have tried it. I was very fortunate actually to get a sneak preview a while ago. But I've tried not to overwear it, because I wanted this reaction today to be as fresh as possible. But it was hard to not overwear it, because I can honestly tell you that I love this stuff. To the extent that I'm actually going to kind of pretend, for the purposes of the blog, that I haven't even smelt it this year. And I'll tell you why. It's because I am putting the finishing touches to my list of the best perfumes of the year, and there is ever so slightly a possibility that something else from Amouage may find itself on that list. And the list was becoming really complicated, because I have actually struggled to fit it all into 10. So I just thought, as this is quite a late release, I'm just going to pretend it's a 2019 release, and it'll probably be on the best perfumes of 2019. But had we not had something else from Amouage this year, this would have gone on the 2018 list as well. But anyway, this one, I didn't even know that the library collections now come in 50 mils, or maybe it's only this one that comes in 50 mils, but it's a really, really beautifully designed 50 ml library collection bottle, which I don't know, as I'm holding it up to the light here, I can see that it's a very, very rich shade of blue, but I'm not sure you can see that on your screens. From what I can see on the monitor over there, it's coming across as a sort of bluish grey, whereas actually against the light it's almost a sort of I was going to say emerald, but I don't mean emerald, I mean sapphire, of course. It's that kind of very jewelled blue. Why do I like it so much? Because it is actually one of the more exciting ouds we've had. Please don't switch off just because I've said the oud word. I know that many of us are sick to death of them, and this is not going to be a release that pleases everybody. But then Amouage are a very brave brand anyway, under the creative directorship of Christopher Chong. They certainly don't release cookie cutter scents. They don't release the kind of thing that you may as well, just nip down to your nearest high street shop and pick up from a more mainstream brand. I think they realise that if they're going to achieve any kind of success in the industry, they need to push the boat out. They need to be polarising. And Opus XI is certainly going to make some people either think, oh God, how could anyone wear this sort of thing? And other people will think, give me more, give me all of it now, just intravenously drip feed it into me. I also like the idea behind it. I don't have a press release. I don't have an official press release. I'm not sure I've ever actually really seen a proper Amouage press release, maybe just the one at some stage. Oh God, it already just hits you with this. Oh, I do love this stuff because it's a leathery oud. Comment. Okay, I've told myself I'm going to ignore the comments, so I will ignore the comments for the moment. But please do keep them coming. It is a leathery oud, and in the sense that it's got those almost acidic tannery-like notes, and maybe not so much of a barnyard oud, in the sense of it's not fecal, although it is animalic, because of course if it is leathery, then that implies that it's animalic as well. It's bitter, quite herbal, and I think it's that kind of herbal bitter opening note that gives it its lift, its sense of openness, and I really, really do love it. So it's almost as though I can't find the words to say anything more. But it's also got that fantastic petrol, petroleum, industrial type smell, which is one of the most fascinating things about oud. That it's a substance that can smell so unbelievably animalistically natural, and yet so completely industrially lab-made as well, because as many of you will know, it also starts veering into the territory of really heavy duty industrial cleaners and detergents and the stuff that you kind of think, if you're not careful, it'll strip half your skin off. And I guess that's what makes it smell dangerous, and that's why so many of us like it, and that's why so many of us enjoy almost the challenge of wearing it and smelling it, because there's a bit of us that maybe are drawn to the fact that it's something of an acquired taste. I mean, I think it has to be said that there is probably a fair amount of snobbery around oud as well, with some people saying, that they can take it, that they can take oud, whereas those newbies and those novices down there haven't yet risen up to the level of being taken oud, to accept an oud or to bear an oud. And of course, if it were nothing but snobbery, sorry, let me try that again. If all it was snobbery, it would be wrong, because no matter how domineering or strident I may appear in my views, I do genuinely believe that there is no room for snobbery in perfumery, and I think absolutely everybody should wear what they like whenever they like it. But also there is an element of truth to all of that, because I think the first time people smell ouds, they are knocked over sideways, and they do kind of think, okay, where the hell did that come from? And I've never smelt anything like this before. As a friend of mine said, when he actually smelt an oud for the first time, as it happens, in the Amouage boutique in London, he said it was a righteous infliction. You do really feel like you've been pummeled. But then the second time you smell it, that visceral gut reaction is a bit less extreme, and you start noticing more about the substance and the smell of it. And the third time, that experience becomes easier as well, and the fourth time. So there is some truth in the fact that it's a kind of acquired taste, and that you need to work your way up to appreciating it. Because I think, if somebody smelt this for the first time and they've never smelt anything like it before, they would be they'd be bemused and perplexed and probably put off. It definitely shares many facets. If you want to kind of think of a mainstream release that you could relate it to, with the Gucci, was it Gucci Guilty Absolute pour Homme, which I think I put on my best of list for last year, which also had that rocket fuel, petroleum, burning fires quality to it. This is very much the kind of Amouage, let's crank it up to 11 version of that scent, and lots of people loved that scent. So if you did like that one, you will adore this one. And I was saying something about the story as well. Christopher Chong, the creative director at Amouage, is very, very good. He's particularly skilled at translating abstract ideas into perfume, in olfactory terms. We're all used to perfumes being inspired by, say, I don't know, the real cliche is, the 21st century independent woman who holds down a job and is also able to look after 3 kids and can bake a cake and, I don't know, changes her tire when it's fine. All those kinds of stupid cliches. But at least they are grounded in something concrete, and you can see how some of those concrete ideas can be translated into perfumery. Christopher Chong is very good at taking abstract ideas. So, for instance, he's been inspired by chaos theory. He's been inspired by the idea of unreliable memories. And this time, he's been inspired by the concept of fake news, and how fake news is so all-pervasive nowadays. And I can just imagine, from talking to him and from interviewing him, I can imagine he might sit down one day and think, okay, fake news, it's this thing that's out there. If I had to do a perfume that was a fake news perfume, what on earth would that be? And what it has turned out to be is a perfume which unashamedly mixes a bit of real oud with a bit of synthetic oud. The idea being, you no longer know which is real and what's fake. Because oud has been around, at least in Western perfumery, long enough now for us to almost take it for granted and to accept its smell, we have probably, a lot of us, lost the ability to work out what's the real stuff and what isn't. And at least in perfumery, we have to ask ourselves, does it even matter? If the perfume feels like it's been well composed and skillfully put together, does it matter whether the oud in it is real or not? In the same way, does it matter whether the rose in Nehema from Guerlain is real or not? There are lots of people out there who believe that Nehema from Guerlain doesn't contain any natural rose at all, whereas there are lots who say that it does. And actually, the fact that there is a debate around that is part of what makes Guerlain's Nehema so interesting. And I think it's really brave of Christopher Chong to put this idea out there, to say this is almost the fake oud perfume. Is it fake? Is it not? Taking that concept directly from this business of fake news that is such a corrosive part of the modern Western world, I think. But in the absence of a press release, we're kind of going to leave Opus 11 there for the moment, except that I just want to keep smelling it because it is so good and so Moorish and so wearable. A few weekends ago I wore it for a whole day. I didn't need to reapply once. I very rarely like to talk about a perfume in terms of performance, but the technical aspect of the composition of a perfume is interesting. So just in terms of longevity, this stuff is fantastic, and as it progresses, it becomes smoother, it becomes more suede-like, it becomes more leathery, and it is the parting shot in a sense in what has been a really, really good year for Amouage. So let me just pop it back in its box while I now say properly thank you very much for tuning in to episode 24 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, on Facebook Live. If you have managed to tune into the live broadcast, thank you very much indeed. Please feel free to leave comments and ask questions and give me hearts and thumbs up and all the rest of it, and interact with each other as well. You don't always have to talk to me, you can talk to each other as well. If you're watching after the live broadcast on Facebook, please feel free to leave a question, because I usually get around to most of them as well. And in the usual way of things, technology permitting, technology has really been letting me down lately in the last few episodes, but technology permitting, this will also go up on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and ask a question. What's happened, in case anybody's interested and is, geekily minded in that way, what's happened in the last few broadcasts is that I haven't been able to extract the high def version of this video after I've broadcasted. In the past, I've always been able to get the high definition video and then upload that to YouTube, which means that the quality of the ones that have been on YouTube has been slightly inferior. Not much, thank goodness, but it is a pain. You just kind of think, okay, why isn't this stuff working? So let me go through some comments. Fahmi says, hi sir, nice to see you live again. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Vitaly says, 24th episode already, time flies. That is exactly what I thought. I know. To think that, I know, I was shocked as well, because I think actually the way it's worked out is that I did 12 last year and 12 this year, which is kind of neat, because it obviously averages out at about one a month, but I don't know where the time's gone. The plan for the next one, by the way, is to do it exactly a week today, and I'm 99% certain that the day is going to be, what, as I said, a week today. The time is a little bit less certain, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be exactly the same time, 3:30 p.m. UK time. And that one I would love you to tune into if you can, because that's when I'm going to reveal my top 10 perfumes of the year, although I completely understand that at this time of year, people have got far more interesting and fun things to do than watching Facebook live videos. So if you watch it after the fact, that's fine. Even today, I think it feels as though half the world is out there food shopping, buying up every single turkey in sight. So I'm fully expecting most of the viewership of this video to be after the fact, but that's when the best of is going to be, and it's going to coincide with a blog post. So make a note, a week today, probably 3:30 p.m. UK time. So Vitaly, I know, 24 episodes. Joe says, hi sir, nice shirt. Thank you very much. I was pleased with this. It's the first time I'm wearing it, just for you. So thank you very much for saying that. And Joe also says, Opus 10 is amazing, that metallic rusty rose. Yes, and of course Opus 10 is also an Amouage oud scent. Do you not find that you just lose a little bit with the numbers? I think when a collection has been numbered, after about the third or fourth one, you think, okay, so which one is that one? The one that really stands out the most is the one that I actually still personally find in a way the most problematic, and of course that's Opus 5, the really, really strong animalic iris. But it is such a distinctive release from Amouage, and as far as I'm aware, it's one of their most successful. Okay, the next thing I would like to try, I know what I would, because there is going to be a classic perfume for today as well. The next thing is to do with the fact that there is a brand that I've been wanting to mention to you, and I kind of have half mentioned it to you already, but I would like to give them a proper mention now, because their stuff is now on sale and available online. It's a brand called Ostens. If you think of our word in English, ostensible, meaning something that's obvious, something that can be seen, it's that same root that gives us ostens, because it means to show. It's a brand that probably takes more time to explain than we've got here, because it's been set up by people who genuinely love perfume and are real hardcore perfume geeks. In some ways, it's quite a fussy brand in terms of getting its concept across, but thankfully it's been cleverly designed in the sense that you can also just ignore the concept and just walk into the shop and say, smell something and go, yeah, I like that one, I don't care about all of the stories behind it, just give me that's what I want. But to explain it very, very quickly, this one, by the way, that I'm holding up is not the perfume from the brand that I would like to smell today, but I want to show it to you just so that you can see what one of their bottles looks like. All of the bottles are exactly the same. Now, part of the raison d'etre for the brand, the inspiration behind it, was to showcase certain beautiful raw materials, particularly raw materials, and I say particularly, I think actually I should say for the moment exclusively, solely, raw materials from a company many of you may have heard of called LMR, or Laboratoire Monique Remy, which is now a part of IFF. And it is widely considered to be one of the finest producers of supremely high quality raw materials. And the founders of the Ostens brand thought, we love this stuff so much, we need to kind of come up with a concept that will allow people everywhere to love these raw materials. And so they took some of their favorite LMR materials, say rose for instance, like a Turkish rose, and they almost presented perfumers with a challenge, if you like, and they said, take this material and build a perfume around it, do what you like with it, present it in an unusual way, present it in a way that you have been dying for it to be presented for all this time, but no brand has ever been interested. Basically have fun, go wild with it. So the resulting perfume they have called an impression. So for instance, this is impression rose oil Isparta, and all of them go like that. So they are impression followed by the name of the raw material. So there's impression jasmine, impression cedar, impression, my mind's gone blank, what was the other one? There's even an impression followed by the name of a synthetic, because they like cashmeran, the synthetic, so they've got impression cashmeran. I forget, but it'll come back to me. But what makes it even more interesting and kind of takes it to the next level is that they have also decided to sell diluted versions of the oils. So this, and they call those preparations. So this is preparation fragrance oil, rose oil Isparta, in a smaller quantity, obviously, as you can see, and you get it with a little wand, and each wand is color coded. So the red wand goes with the rose, and so on. And what you do with all of this is completely up to you. So you could go in and you could decide that you like the rose oil and that's all you want, and you buy the rose oil and you wear the rose oil and that's it. You could decide that you want to wear the rose oil and then spray the rose perfume or impression over it. You could decide that actually you like the idea of wearing the rose oil but then spraying the jasmine perfume over it, and so you do that. Or you could decide you just want the impression. That's where I say it's quite geeky, because you can imagine a sales assistant taking a little bit of time to explain all of this, but also by the same token somebody could just go, yeah, I'm not interested, I just, like I said, I just like that one, please let me smell it. The one composition that I would like to smell with you, because it is my favourite from the collection, is the impression Cedarwood, which I've just got in a kind of lab sample thing, which is why I wanted to show you this, just to be fair to the brand, so that you see what their proper presentation is like. I love this stuff. And we were talking about best perfumes of the year lists. I wouldn't be surprised if, dot, not that I'm saying anything, I don't want to sort of reveal anything. Why do I love this one? I think I love this one because it came across as a genuine surprise when I smelt it, because it is what it says in on the tin, but it's also so much more, and it goes on a really great journey, and it just ticks like clockwork. So, impression cedar, but first thing you get is this hit of green, a galbanum green. In other words, almost like a kind of Chanel number 19 green. But then you think, oh, is it basically going to be a Chanel number 10? But you smell it and you go, no, it's not quite peppers and I should use this hand. It's not quite peppers and peas, etc., etc. It immediately starts becoming woodier, appropriately enough, because it's cedarwood. And then comes the tobacco inflection, a really, really beautiful pipe tobacco smell, which links the greenness and the cedar so gorgeously, so expertly, because of course pipe tobacco has a kind of hay-like quality to it, green materials, galbanum, with that outdoorsy freshness that they have, start linking in with hay, and then that leads into the cedar, because cedar is also quite dry, heading into sort of tobacco territory. It's just this beautifully seamless transition, and as it goes along, it just gets a touch sweeter, in the sense of just a sort of subtle clinging to the skin. I mean, somebody from the brand actually said that they feel that it becomes almost caramel-like, which I'm not sure entirely agree with, although unquestionably it gets sweeter. You know, this banana one is a mystery, but anyway. And conscious of time, I'm going to share a few things about the press release, because you ought to know about this brand. So very, very, very quickly, Ostens, the new fragrance house from the creative partnership of Laurent Delafont and Chris Yu, is not just a curation of scents born from their love of perfume and the origins of ingredients, but also an unconventional and alternative state of olfactory mind. Ostens is born out of the collected experience of working with some of the world's leading fragrance, design and fashion brands and their founders and creative forces. During their joint career in the perfume industry, Delafont and Yu have worked with some of the most creative minds across several industries, from Francis Kurkdjian or Christian Guatreau, the founders of famed perfume house Diptyque, to Ramdan Tahami, first at Cia Trudon, or Barnaba Fornasetti and Anya Hanmach. From beauty and fragrance, fashion to interiors, Delafont and Yu have honed a unique creative point of view and a critical eye for quality, its language and its consumers. In other words, like I said, they are guys who know their stuff and really, really love perfume. And let me see if, so there's a bit here about what I told you about how, you know, there are impressions and there are preparations. There's also a kind of postcard that you get when you buy one, tailor-made to the perfume, to give a sort of colour impression of the scents. And let's see if, so what were they? So there was rose, jasmine, cedarwood, cashmere, patchouli, sorry. I don't know how I forgot that one. The patchouli is an interesting one, because actually they commissioned 2 patchouli fragrances. They let, is this going to be here? Yes, they let Sophie Labbe make one, and then they also, don't let me get this wrong, there's one by Sophie Labbe and there's one by Olivier Polge. And the reason why we can have this one from Olivier Polge is that it was actually made before he went over to Chanel, which tells you how long this brand has been in the making. Let me just tell you about the cedarwood. The actual cedarwood that has been used in it, it says, coming from Virginia, the cedarwood oil is blended in our proprietary silky smooth dry oil formulation. That's if you buy the cedarwood oil, the preparation, okay? Its woody notes will develop on your skin, creating a scent of its own. Okay, fine, but I just wanted to find out about the impression. So the impression Cedarwood Heart is created by Alexis Dadier, I need to stop saying supremely, extremely talented perfumer. It says here, gritty like desert sand, coarse like haberdasher's wool, the lingering scent of tobacco and coastal pine floating in the evening sun. The warm, worn insides of an old wooden box filled with secrets. And it really does feel like that. It feels like delving into the past. And there's a sharpness to the green as well, which is just, we've had quite a few sharp greens lately. Again, really, really fascinating, a little bit of transparency here from the brand. They tell you what fraction of the perfume contains the star material, which in some cases is shocking, because according to this preparation here, no, I need to use their words, this impression, this fragrance here, contains 1 over 1,010 parts of the cedarwood. So you wouldn't think there's that much cedar in it, and yet that is the material which from which the perfumer took his inspiration to create this. Other keynotes, it says, are bergamot oil, cardamom oil, yes, absolutely, I should have said cardamom as well, because that coolness, violet leaf absolute, the galbanum heart, orris concrete, and patchouli. Do check out Ostens if you can. At the moment they have a shop in Marylebone in London. Their website is active, but the shop is temporary, and their idea for the moment is that they're going to take their shop around. And when I say around, I mean internationally. I'm sure they'll announce their plans, but I think there's an intention to take the shop to France and then to take it to the States, and then maybe to not have a shop for a while and sell the perfumes in a different way. The ideas there are quite fluid, and I think they're an indication of the fact that the founders don't want to play things in the normal, conventional, ordinary way. Do check them out. Incidentally, the rose is also really special. If I were to tell you that it is made by Dominique Ropion, who created Portrait of a Lady for Mal, and that it contains the same Turkish rose oil that is in Portrait of a Lady, you'll be thinking, I need to try this stuff. And what's interesting about it is that it is a massive rose by Ropion, and it's not really all that obviously like Portrait of a Lady. So well worth checking out. But my favourite, I think, perhaps because it's slightly the most out there, the most nostalgic, but also the edgiest, is the Cedarwood. And I shall certainly be treating myself to a bottle when I can. Christmas shopping for other people being what it is, but I'm sure I'll get there. Okay. At this point, I always just kind of do a reminder, like sort of, you are listening to Radio 4. You are watching episode 24 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, on Facebook Live. If you are watching live, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. Please feel free to ask questions and interact and give me hearts and thumbs up, because I'm a very needy person and I need that external emoji validation. Can we call it how would you combine validation and emoji? Emanation would sound really wrong. Never mind. I don't need any emanations, thank you very much. Valimoji. Give me Valimoji. Give me your Valimoji love. If you're watching after the live broadcast, please feel free to ask a question. And if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, oh, there's a Valimoji right there. Thank you very much. I feel Valimoji'd. I feel I need to stop now. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, give me a like, ask questions, etc. Motivation, yes, motivation. That's good. We need to copyright that, Alistair. Thank you very much. Motivation. By the way, do you like my special festive display? I need to show you something else. Actually, talking about festive displays, I couldn't fit this in because we're just about to go into the classic scent bit. I couldn't make this work, but I had to show you. Look at how amazing this is. A set of Tom Ford private blend minis. How cool is that? I've sort of assembled them here. Oh, now all the hearts go across the screen. I see. You give hearts to Mr. Tom Ford's mini private blends, but this is just stunning. And it's got Tobacco Vanille, Soleil Blanc, Tuscan Leather, Neroli Portofino in this smart box. This was, let me just hold it up correctly so you can see. This was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you. But classic scent. Classic scent is going to be. Peggy says, "Love it, love the Chanel." Yeah, that was cool as well. This is a Dior one, by the way. Look. That's cool too. I mean, this isn't so much of a snow globe one, but the great. Oh, Peggy says, I just died. Please don't. There is a mushroom soup that needs your attention. The beautiful thing about this Dior one is all of the detail and all the stuff in it. I may have shown it to you before. You've got a little Dior chair. You've got a bottle of J'adore. You've got a bottle of Miss Dior, and the actual snow, if you like, is little stars. Very cool. Peggy, are you alive again? Peggy says, I want a set. I know. Persolaise is a lucky boy, although he works hard for his private blends and for his motivation. So today's classic scent at the 44-minute mark, a bittersweet moment, but I absolutely had to do this. Some of you will be aware that on the 18th of December, so literally just a few days ago, the Zurich-based perfumer Vero Kern, her brand was called Vero Profumo, still called that. She passed away. I don't know why. I don't tend to pry into these things until some official details are released. I don't know if her demise was expected, not expected, if she was unwell. But the fact is that she is no longer with us, and she is going to be such a huge loss to the perfume world. She was just so talented, and yes, of course, the fact that she was talented was a big deal, but also the way she wore her talent. There's an interview that I did with her, and it's on the blog, so if you search for it on the blog, you'll find it. She didn't actually release her first perfumes until she was 67, Until that time in her life, she had worked in all sorts of different industries. Then she'd started getting into aromatherapy. She called herself an aromalogist, or I forget, I'd have to look up the word. But she was interested in smells, and I think the story went that she started making some blends together. Peggy says, may she rest in peace. Yes, absolutely. I hope she does, and I hope she's smiling down on us with that huge, beaming, full of life smile that she had. She's one of those people that you just can't imagine her not being alive, because she was so full of life. She was so extraordinarily full of life, at least the sides of her that I saw. And it's not like, we were close buddies and I was constantly in touch with her, but the sides of her that I saw were always so vivacious and exuberant. And she didn't release her first perfumes. She released a trio of perfumes in 2007. A lot of you will be aware of what they are. They were Ruby, Kiki, and Onda. Kiki, one of the best lavender perfumes ever. Onda, just this ginormous vetiver. Ruby, a really interesting jasmine scent. And she was also a real perfume geek, in the sense that she played around with her formulations. And so what she did a few years after the original release of that trio, she released them in slightly different forms. And I could just imagine her thinking, oh, okay, how can I make different versions of these scents which will still smell recognizably like them, but will bring something new to the story? And she pulled it off fantastically. In the case of all three of them, she pulled it off really well. And then she started playing around like that with some of the other things that she released. Mito was so beautiful when she released it. Naja, which I'm pretty sure was from last year. I put that on my best perfumes of last year list. Every single thing that she did was surprising and original and intriguing, and yet also smelt completely of Vero. They were larger than life, irrepressible, feisty. Feisty was a good word to describe her. And I'm sure she was a force to be reckoned with. You tend not to get places in life if you're not a force to be reckoned with. I don't mean that as a criticism, being a force to be reckoned with. But certainly in any of her interactions with me, she was just so kind and so warm. And I have a very, very, very strong recollection of spending just a tremendous evening with her in Zurich a few years ago with some friends. And it was just great talking about perfumes, but also not talking about perfumes, talking about other stuff and enjoying good food and getting to know her dog. She loved her dog. If you know her Instagram, then you will know that she loved her dog. And I also don't know what's going to happen with her brand. It would just be tragic, I think, if we lost the perfumes. I don't know if any news is going to be released about what might happen to her brand. So as my classic scent for today, I would like to share with you my extrait of Onda. Joe says, Vero Kern's renditions in 3 different strengths is very intriguing. Yes, I mean, intriguing is the word, and just so interesting and just so indicative of her desire to explore the possibilities of perfumery. She was a one-off. There are some people who are just one-offs. She was also very, very kind and helpful to me. When Persolaise started, she showed a great deal of interest. She didn't mince her words, which I think is probably why I liked her so much, because it is so rare in most walks of life, but certainly it is rare in this world to find people who really say what they mean and mean what they say. This is the extrait of Onda. Vero told me that she was once told that a lot of people who liked Guerlain's old Jedi, or Jedi, which is a massive vetiver, a lot of people said that they finally found their replacement for Jedi in Vero's Onda. I don't know if that's true, because I've only ever smelt a kind of modern recreation of Jedi, and I can kind of see the connection, but this stuff is huge. I am actually going to apply this to skin because you have to, because it's Vero, and it's our tribute to her. If you are looking down on us from somewhere, Vero, thank you very much for everything that you did. Rest in peace, as Peggy says. And we're now going to smell this and remember, this is like Opus XI all over again. When I've written about Onda, I've always been drawn to describing it as a sort of rupture in the space-time continuum, as a sort of black hole that sucks you in. it is so massive and yet it is so controlled, and that was part of Vero's skill, and also it showed how much time she took over her scents. You know, she did not release 3 things a year. In fact, what she did was maybe release 1 thing every 3 years, because she took her original idea, but then she fine-tuned it, and that's why what you get in her perfumes is very clear ideas that have been executed with lots of finely tuned details, and that's, you know, what more can you ask for? So yes, you do get this huge vetiver, but you also get, you know, finely balanced citrus notes and a really, really interesting flintiness, a kind of mineral quality, sparks flying, the sort of TCP hospital cleaner side of things, medicinal aspect, which is why I was immediately reminded of Opus XI. A kind of black powderiness. If you can imagine something like granite being pulverized and coming at you from the outer fringe of a black hole. Physicists are now, of course, saying you can't have stuff coming out of a black hole, but just go with it, okay? And despite all of that, today I'm kind of thinking I almost even smell a marine note that I haven't picked up before. And that's kind of what's making me think of Naja, because that had a bravely administered marine note. And what you get with all of that as well is finesse and gentleness. Fahaj says, you're a total nerd, love it. Who are you? Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much for that. I am a total nerd. I've been a total nerd since you've known me, so get over it. But you know how when you smell vintage poison, you know, Dior's poison, you are knocked over sideways by the hugeness of it, but then you're also so thoroughly impressed by the detail and by the gentleness, almost the delicacy. Fahaj says, true. Yeah, I know it's true. You've got your nerdy sides as well, Mr. Shahid, but anyway. And the thing with Vero's creations is you can smell the big picture, but you can also smell the small picture, and you can kind of tune in and out. Here's something just for you, Fahaj. It's almost like she makes perfumes that are bigger on the inside than on the outside. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is my tribute to Vero Kern, and for goodness sake, if you haven't tried her stuff, you really, really need to, and especially now you really need to, because I have no idea what's happening with her brand, and if the current situation that we're in is that the perfumes that are still remaining in shops are the only perfume, you know, the only bottles that are going to be left, then boy do we need to buy them up, because they would be such a massive loss. You know, I would personally need to stock up, you know, on Ruby and on Naja. Mind you, Naja was a limited edition anyway. But thank you, Vero. You know, I hope you're off somewhere making loads more perfumes, and you live on in your work. With just a few minutes to go, because I would like to bring another perfume to your attention, which I have smelt before, but not a huge amount, because this again was another one that I only smelt for the first time very, very recently, and I thought, oh, why am I only smelling this now? Because now my whole top 10 list is going to be messed up. So I can tell you that this is certainly a contender for the top 10 of the year. Whether it's actually going to be in it or not, I don't know. And it is by the very, very talented Givaudan perfumer Quentin Bisch, who also gave us this, by the way, this year. We don't have time to smell it today, but Chloe's Nomad, if you haven't tried it, a very, very good release from the mainstream, a very good modern citrus chypre. This is what he has made for the brand Ex Nihilo. I haven't got a full bottle. This is I guess it's a travel size, I don't know, but their full bottles look like this, except that this one won't have the opaque glass. This is called Cuir Celeste, or celestial leather. So we've just had black holes from Vero, so we're still up in the, you know, in the galaxy. Leather is a kind of common theme for today, isn't it? Maybe it's because we're all feeling cold and we need the leathery protection. But and it has to be said, I am partial to leather scents, but this one is really special because, well, at least partly because it takes the concept through from the name and executes it really well. If you remember Cuir d'Ange from Hermès, by Jean-Claude Helena a few years ago, the leather of an angel, which really felt like it was presenting you with the image of an angel whose wings were made of really, really fine leather. I actually compared the perfume. I said that it would be the kind of thing that Skellig might wear, the character Skellig from the children's book. And lo and behold, the author of the children's book, David Allman, got in touch with me to say, oh, this is interesting, and I sent him a sample of Cuir d'Ange, but anyway, that's another story. That was a leather which was sort of filigree, delicate. It was weightless. And this one from Quentin Bisch does exactly the same kind of thing, and I think he's achieved that effect by making it peppery. So it's got a strong note of ambrette seed, which has a peppery, musky aspect to it, and it gives the leather a very, very finely ground texture, kind of like, the sort of pulverized black granite I was talking about. But it renders it weightless, so it's almost like little particles of leather floating in some kind of asteroid belt, and you catch their scent on the wind. This isn't the knock you over the head powerhouse of Opus XI. In fact, if anything, people who love how it starts may then think that they're sort of disappointed that it's not carrying on longer. It is there. It does develop into a skin scent, so don't be fooled. Whoops, pretend that didn't happen. But it does become subtle. Very quickly, I ought to tell you a little bit about the concept behind it. So I'm just going to get the press release from the tablet here, because it is... Where's it gone? I prepared it to make sure that I had it, and now it appears to have vanished. Or am I being blind? That's weird, because I deliberately made sure... Oh no, here we go. Yes, Cuir Celeste. So, it came out in September, and it's the first of collaboration type releases that the brand Ex Nihilo have done, and this is a collaboration with Mathieu César. I didn't know who he was either, but I will tell you now. Mathieu César, promising, gifted, self-taught. Mathieu César is one of the new emerging talents of contemporary photography. Recognizable for his timeless touch, his subtle black and white have seduced the most prestigious magazines, Harper's Bazaar, French Vogue, Dazed and Confused. He regularly works with international celebrities and creative high profiles, including Daft Punk, Lana Del Rey, Bella Hadid, and Natalie Portman, to name a few. He's a photographer. And he is known for wearing leather. High Perfumery was the next playground to express his curiosity for creation in all its forms, driven by the same passions and demands. Ex Nihilo founders Olivier Rayet, Sylvie Laudet and Benoît Verdier invited Mathieu to imagine the fragrance of his dreams. For the occasion, they asked another rising French talent, perfumer Quentin Bisch, to collaborate on the project. The result of this union, a quintessential scent that reinvents the olfactory codes of leather with a very haute couture twist. And there are some of the images there. Let me show you. The Lana Del Rey images are pretty good. Can you see that? Okay. And why have you done that? Apple product. And the fragrance, very, very quickly. There we go. Black pepper, violet leaves, galbanum at the top, the ambrette, like I said, and then patchouli, musk, and the sort of strong woody Givaudan material called Akigala wood is in here as well. It's the gentleness of this that I love, which is probably why it reminded me of the angelic leather from Hermès. Good stuff. Very, very good stuff. Right, let me quickly go back to Facebook to see what's happening here. And are we going to make it to under an hour? So, thank you very much for tuning in today. If you have any questions after the broadcast, then obviously feel free to leave them behind. To leave them on the Facebook page. To leave them below the video is what I meant to say. Wrong preposition. And thank you very much for all your support over the whole year. I will be saying more thank yous next week when I do my Best Perfumes of the Year broadcast. So remember, it's almost certainly going to be 3:30 p.m, but it will certainly be a week today. But until then, We started with a snow globe, so let's finish with a snow globe. I'm going to try and pick this up without wrecking everything. How about a little bit of, is this still stable? I will be doing a blotter update in the usual way in a few hours, where I sort of tell you how the blotters have been doing. How about a little bit of Gautier fun? So, to those of you who celebrate Christmas, a very, very happy Christmas to you. To those of you who don't, the season's greetings. Have a great time off work, if you are off work. Thank you very much, and I do have to do my usual kind of pitch forward to turn the camera off. Thanks very much. Look after yourselves. Bye.